Guys, we are live from Sports Fluent, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. This is From the Sidelines. My name is Monique, and I am your host. And to the right of me is Cody, and below me is Jackson. We may or may not have a guest coming, but we'll figure that out as we go. So today, we'll be talking about the winners and losers of the NFL free agency. So, because I'm the host, I want to start because I don't want you guys to pick whoever I'm going to talk about. So, my first winner that I'm going to talk about during this show is Davante Adams. And that's so funny because I talked to Cody right before the show, and I was like, I just put out Davante Adams over there because I was like, maybe he won't catch on that I'm going to talk about him. So, I think that wide receiver, once he signed with the Rams, got everything he wanted. Literally, the location is literally where he's from, or really close to where he's from. So that's a plus. And then he gets to play with Matthew Stafford, who is a star quarterback, which is every running back's dream. And then they also get to be coached by Sean McVay, who is a very innovative and new kind of play caller. So I think that's really important. I'm going to go to Jackson first. Who do you think is the winner in this free agency so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously if you go player-wise, that's a huge win right there for Davante. He gets the system. I know we're going to move on to losers, and so I'll go ahead and preview mine, which is going to be, the guy who he kind of backfilled for, and that's Cooper Kupp. I think that you take a decline at quarterback. There's a little bit less of less stability on the team right now. There's less of a clear image of where exactly they're headed. So, I think that, Davante definitely with a big win there. As far as free agent wins go, I think that you got to look at the quarterback position, right? There's been a lot of quarterback moves, and honestly, I would say that an undeserving winner in this case is Daniel Jones getting another shot at a team that is still kind of looking for a quarterback to support and to build up with. And if they don't really see AR as the guy, then he might just walk into a situation with a team that is willing to fully support someone. And if he can beat out AR in training, that's a pretty good gift of grace, considering he's kind of shown over the last couple of years that he's not the guy for a team.
Okay, Cody, what's your pick?
For my winner, if we're staying with players as winners, I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. I feel like the Bears finally got him some protection, get two top-end guards in Tooney and Jonah Jackson, get a good center in Drew Dalman. So I feel like the pressure is on him, so he's a winner in the free agency, but he's maybe a loser because all the pressure's on him. There's no excuses saying that, okay, the line's not good anymore. He's obviously got weapons in DJ Moore and Roma Dunze and Cole Kmet. So pressure's on him, but I think he wins. You got everything set up to win now in Chicago. They had some decent pickups on defense and as well with Grady Jarrett, but I think Caleb Williams is the winner there. Finally get some protection now. He's got to, do what he was supposed to do going into the league.
So, guys,
That's a great call.
Oh, go ahead. But I was going to say, I have a proposition on a winner, but it also could be quite a loss if you think about what can happen during the season. So my other winner that I really wanted to bring this up was Sam Darnold, and the fact that he signed with the Seattle Seahawks. The losing part of this whole equation is that what if they don't get their offense together? They only have one wide receiver, right? And so I don't know if I see that as a winner. The only thing I can see it being a winner is because he gets to reunite with his passing coordinator from when he was in the 49ers. That was kind of my 2 cents in there, because he kind of credits that time that he spent in the 49ers as really, really significant and made him grow as a player and as a person. So that's kind of where I'm at. Do you guys have any more winners before we go on to losers?
As far as teams go, I really liked what the Broncos did. I thought the Broncos had a lot of good pickups. You get two kind of 49er cast-offs in Greenlaw and Hufanga. I like Evan Ingram. That's going to help out Bo Nix as well. So I like that move. So I like what the Broncos did. They already had momentum first year with Bo Nix. You make the playoffs, get a little momentum in the offseason. So I think the Broncos are winners right now as a team that I'm looking at.
Jackson, do you have any more winners? I have one more actually, but I'm gonna go to Jackson first.
Yeah, if I'd go teams, it would really just bounce off of what Cody said for players already, because it would be the Bears. I think that they've shown their investment in their quarterback, and they've bolstered the offensive line. Obviously, some additions all around on defense as well, but I think that they've done a really good fundamental job of filling out that roster. They've done free agency extremely well this offseason. Now it's really up to Caleb to show that he's the guy. He like Cody said, there's really no excuse now.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that. The other winner that I had three because I wasn't sure if you guys were gonna pick them. So I picked three, and you haven't said any of the player ones that I was thinking about. But whoever I think is gonna be the quarterback for the Steelers is gonna have a really good offense. Like we're talking about two wide receivers, including Metcalf, right? And then with Pickens as well, like they can create magic. They can create an explosive play. I think that that's really important to note. I think the Steelers they're coming for the season as the at least for the offense. I don't really have anything to say with the defense right now, but it's whoever's joining. The prospect of getting a quarterback, like a really good, solid quarterback, is now even better because you have those two wide receivers. What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I like that. I think whoever is the quarterback will have good receivers. It's just you got to keep them happy. I think they're both guys that are going to let you know when they're not getting the ball, especially Pickens. So you got to keep them happy. I'm leaning that it will probably be Rodgers. I think he's a better fit than Russell Wilson, but yeah, I think that person could have a really good year, and they're maybe set up better than the Steelers have been in the past. But it could be like week 7, week 8, and maybe DK or Pickens only got a couple touchdowns on the board and they're chirping. So it could turn south pretty quick too.
So like, if they were to sign Rodgers, what kind of deal between the both of you would they sign?
I'd say 1 year, maybe.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that too, because I was like, I can't see them going past 2. That doesn't make sense to me, So, what about you, Jackson? Do you think that we're on the same page, or you think maybe he's gonna stay for more, maybe not even sign Aaron Rodgers to a contract?
I think whoever they're looking at is a veteran who has concerns that you would not want to sign them for more than a year or two anyway, even if they go with like a Kirk Cousins or a Russell Wilson or whoever, right? Like each of these players have proven themselves good in moments, and of course, very very risky at moments as well. I mean, yes, I don't think that they'll sign for a crazy long deal. I think that they'll do something short. It's just like for a team like the Steelers, they're not really giving an end in sight to this little QB carousel. It's kind of hard to see once you get into it, right? Obviously, they had a long tenure of Ben Roethlisberger, and that was very successful. But now they've been in a little bit of a carousel, obviously with much more success than other teams typically have when they're rotating quarterbacks year after year. But I just don't see where it'll end if they continue to do this, and they're obviously adding talent all around the roster as well. They're not committed to any sort of tank. So it's kind of hard to see where they'll go. I don't know if there's really a position where they trade up in the draft for one of the quarterbacks. I don't really think this is the draft to do it anyway. So maybe this is, like we've said, kind of in some of the past podcasts. You grab a guy for a year or two and you do the best you can with it and wait for a quarterback class. It's a little more dazzling.
Okay, guys, we have 2 comments. One is a typo. The first comment is from shoutouts to Kilpie for watching us on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. And he pretty much agreed with all of our comments when it comes to the Steelers, DK, and Pickens, the wide receivers. They said they can be a hell of a 1-2 combination, but they both have anger issues. That is the typo. But what do you guys think? Do you think that will play a factor? Do you think that the quarterback that they signed for the Steelers is going to have to keep them both in line?
Yeah, I think so. And the thing is, too, is like if it's Rodgers or Wilson, those guys can be some drama as well, especially Rodgers. So Tomlin at least has experience with that. He had Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. So he's had, experience with, drama and guys who like to, chirp a little bit and maybe have some issues there. So I think they're in the right spot for a coach to kind of manage that. But I mean, if it's Rodgers, DK, and Pickens, I think they could be awesome on the field, but it could be tough off the field for sure.
I don't know if you guys recall the pictures from the Obama administration of Barack Obama, like right before he started office, and then 8 years later. Yeah. And they do this with all the presidents. Like it ages them so poorly, right? I would love to see the side by side of Tomlin today, and then 2 years of Rodgers, Pickens, and Metcalf. I think he has some serious potential for maybe an NIL sponsorship with touch of gray.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like it's gonna be one hell of an offense, but if you don't control them right, if you don't know how to coach them properly, manage their their plays, then it's gonna be a disaster. And we're gonna see what happened in previous seasons happen there. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I don't think they're not gonna retain Russell Wilson. Like I don't think they're gonna go that route again. Like I think Aaron Rodgers, like for sure, 1-year contract. That's what I think is gonna happen. But the thing I have, like I love Aaron Rodgers. He is my favorite quarterback, guys, and that is saying a lot because there's a lot of great quarterbacks right now. So why he's my favorite is because of his plays and his he's very smart. But the only thing I don't like about him is that he's a total drama queen. He literally will complain about everything. He will only pass to his favorite, wide receivers and so on and so forth because he did that when he was on the Jets. And that's why certain people, as you probably know, want to get traded or want to get out of that team. So that's what I'm thinking. So we're going to step back. We're going to talk about the losers in a little bit. But does anyone have any more comments before we move on? Like, I honestly only picked players because teams are a little bit harder to talk about, I feel like, because it's just too much of a whole system to nitpick which things are good and which things are bad about it. I will say this though. I almost considered some of the, I believe, like head coaches in this whole winner circle. But it was harder because like you have to factor in so many things when you talk about coaches. What do you guys think? Do you have I had Ryan Poles, I had as a winner, sorry. And then I had the Dallas Cowboys one as a loser. Like that's a pretty obvious one. I think anybody could probably pick that up. And so what do you guys think? Any of the GMs, any of the coaches, or just specifically teams are a winner and a loser? What do you guys think?
I could throw out another coach winner, and that'd be Pete Carroll, right?
Yes.
Reunited with a quarterback that he has faith in a new situation and all that. I think that's kind of an unexpected winner there. And they really haven't had a decent quarterback there in a little while. So for him to come in and already kind of be graced with a quarterback of his caliber is nice for him. And then, of course, we keep talking about the Bears. Inevitably, if any of you guys watching are betting people, I would put all your money against the Bears now that I've spoken so highly against or for them. But Flus has got a good situation there. Just with them bolstering the O-line. I think that your job as a coach becomes so much easier with a strong O-line, even if you maybe lack a little bit of talent at any other position. I always say that the game is won in the trenches, and I really think that he's been set up to run a good offense this season, regardless of how the skill position players play. He's got a lot he can be creative with because of the strong O-line.
Okay, Cody, did you have something to say? I had something to add on to what Jackson said.
Yeah, so, no, I agree with. Were you saying Ben Johnson? No, I thought you said Eberflus, but
yeah.
I knew
the second I said it, I was like,
yeah.
It's Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the fact. The second I said it, I was like, he's not there anymore. But all right.
I figured you were there's no way. I'm pretty sure he does. But if we're staying on kind of the coaching winners, I'm gonna go with Dan Quinn with the Commanders. I feel like he was already playing with house money. First year with the team takes him to the NFC Championship game, and he's the defensive guy, so he doesn't have to worry about the offense anymore. You get Deebo Samuel. They get Laramie Tunzel, one of the better tackles in the league, to protect Jaden Daniels. So he just got to worry about the defense, let Jaden and Cliff Kingsbury kind of just run the offense. And I think they could make another run back to the NFC Championship game and still have 3 more years under Jane Daniels on his rookie contract. So it looks like they're going all in.
I had a conversation. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I had a conversation with someone about the Deebo Samuel situation. And, it's a really interesting one because I think as far as if you're Deebo, you're a winner, right? That's someone we can say is a winner in free agency. Is he's headed somewhere with what seems to be a very bright quarterback situation. There's other talent at receiver so that he's not maybe hawked down by the best DB at all times. Obviously, they have a very stout run game, which helps the passing game. And he doesn't care about the defense because that's not his side of the ball. And receivers aren't really known to care too much about, anything other than their target load.
Right.
But this is his chance to either have a career resurgence after a down year or really prove that he's officially, receding into that washed status. So
right.
I think that as we've kind of talked about a couple of winners, that being a winner in free agency means that you have a lot of pressure on you now. There's pressure on Deebo because if he doesn't live up to expectations, if he continues his case of the drops, which he's had recently, it's going to look really bad for him, and it'll really hurt him down the road if he, wants to extend this career and continue to succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, that's fair. If we go back to the GM question or like the GM question in terms of like who's a winner, who's a loser, who I think is a winner, and you might agree with me because of one star player, it's because Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, I think is a winner because of Myles Garrett for the extension. That's exactly like once that happened, I feel like they just slept really well. Like they just like went to bed and they're like, we're fine, doesn't matter. Like we're good now because of that extension. Because we talked about it in the first episode, and I kind of brought it up. I brought up the fact that I thought that that he was going to get traded and he wanted to get out, but then I said, don't do it, Cleveland. Sign him, re-sign him. There you go. That's what happened. Everything's fine. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree with me? Do you think like, oh, maybe that's not enough to be considered a winner for a GM?
I mean, I think he can be considered a winner. Re-signing Myles Garrett, I think, was huge. I think they probably should have looked for a trade partner just on his behalf, but yeah, I mean, you throw $40 million at someone, they're probably gonna say yes. So yeah, I think he can be a winner. I just want to see what else they do because they really haven't done much outside of Myles Garrett. And who's their quarterback going to be? It's probably not going to be Deshaun. Is it going to be Russell? Is it going to be they're going to draft someone number 2? Is it going to be Shadur, or if Cam Ward's not taking number 1? So I think he's sort of a winner, but maybe just not maybe put on pause. Let's see how he handles the draft and the rest of free agency and see, because they have a decent roster, but their quarterback's position's been awful ever since they let Baker Mayfield go. So yeah, I would say maybe half winner and see what the rest of the offseason looks like.
Yeah, Jackson, do you have anything yet to say?
Yeah, I think that, it's not enough movement on the offseason to call them a winner. The Browns do not win a lot of off seasons. They don't win a lot of seasons either. So I guess I would really struggle to call them a winner. I think it's huge. Anytime you can retain what I would consider the face of their franchise right now, that's a big win, not only for the product on the field, but of course, if you're the owner, you're thinking about ticket, jersey sales, viewership, everything like that. Keeping Myles Garrett's big, but I'm really worried that if they don't do much, yes, the $40 million has kept him quiet now, but he's a competitor. He's a fierce competitor who cares very much about what happens on the field. And if they don't do enough to bolster this team and the team ends up just as bad or maybe even worse, there's not enough money that's going to keep a true competitor quiet, right? Because now he's getting paid that money, but he can still make his complaints, right? I think that if there's not enough done this offseason and if they don't have a different product on the field, it's not I don't think he's the kind of guy to throw a diva fit and, halfway through the season have a big problem, but he's also not the guy who's going to be quiet about his concerns with the team. I could see him being very frustrated throughout the season about just them not doing enough other than paying him to keep him satisfied.
Yeah. And he's 29 now? I think he turns 30 this year. So yeah, he's not getting any younger, of course. So yeah, they got to start winning soon, or else, maybe this conversation's happening again this offseason or the next 2 years from now. So yeah, I agree.
And now he's got a fat contract to fulfill. So if he doesn't have a really great season this year, they're not going to be able to find someone who wants to pay him that much money.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yep.
Very good point, Jackson and Cody. So I'm just gonna go to our comments before because Kilpie is still there. I see you guys. I see all your comments. Pretty much, he was saying like when we backtracked and we talked about DK and Pickens, just pretty much how like they had inappropriate moments. They had a lot of conduct penalties. They were wilding out. They were like doing all this, right? So he's hopeful that they're gonna win a lot of games with the Steelers. And then pretty much he talked about the Eagles, showed that O line and D line can dominate a game in the Super Bowl. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. And then the other one is Shudder. Isn't that athletic? Sorry if I'm like butchering, guys. I'm just reading from the screen.
He's talking about Shedder Sanders. Yeah.
There you go. He had good accuracy and making good reads. Yeah, I think we agree with all of them pretty much. Good comments. Keep them going, guys. We are live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. This is From the Sidelines. We're gonna move on now to talk about the losers. And I want to go first because, like I said, I don't want you guys to pick who I'm gonna pick. So I'm gonna go with someone that I mentioned in the winners, like how I previewed them in my losers circle. Jerry Jones from the Dallas Cowboys. Everyone's like, like that's pretty obvious. Like I'm pretty sure she's gonna say that. I did. There's a lot of things that like with the Myles Garrett signing, that kind of made it harder for them to sign someone like Micah Parsons, right? So that's something that kind of trickled down the pipeline for them, but not in a good way. And then it just got a whole lot harder to sign him. So then he spent last season pretty much negotiating with, you already know who it is, the quarterback, Dak Prescott. And like that, okay, here's the thing, guys. And CD Lamb, both of them. I get it. I like CD Lamb, not a big fan of Dak Prescott. Are we like Dallas Cowboys fans, or are we just kind of objective here? No.
I mean, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I could be objective about them, but I'm not a fan. Yeah, I think they took a step back last year. I think they could take an even further step back this year. They're the third best team in their own division now. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of hope and optimism for the Cowboys. I think it's sort of like I don't know how old you guys are, but if you remember like in the early 2000s with like Al Davis and the Raiders, I think we got a similar situation with the Cowboys where the owner maybe is meddling a little bit too much and it's costing the team on the field.
Fair. Jackson, 100%. Any comments?
Yeah,
okay. Exactly.
Yeah, so there's not too much to add. The Cowboys are mismanaged. I think that a lot of people could agree. So it's not too hard to read into.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, we're gonna go to Jackson first. Who is the first loser in your list?
So I have the player loser, of course, already in Cooper Kupp. Just now, obviously he's getting paid, but I think that also it could be a hit to your own ego that the Rams really didn't want to spend that kind of money on a receiver, and then they go and pay a guy like Devontae Adams, who, like I don't think is leagues and leagues ahead of him, right? I would argue that Cooper Kupp is still the better receiver there. They're two very different styles of play. Yeah. Obviously, Coop isn't your like one-on-one matchup kind of guy. He plays the field a little bit differently. He plays a couple different parts of the receiver position too. So they're really not comparable in ways. Me personally, I look for a little more consistency out of a receiver like Coop, but I think Devontae, when you need a big guy at a big moment, I would much rather go to Devontae to make that play. So, I think that for Coop, it's kind of a shot. His team didn't want to sign a receiver for that much money, and then they went ahead and paid someone else. It stings, right? And a team that he's going to see pretty often, right? So I think that'll all be very interesting. A team that's a loser, I would say it pains me to say it, but as a Charlotte sports fan, I'm pretty numb to being losers in free agency. We don't make a lot of moves. The Panthers, man, like they were big talk in the offseason about wanting to grab a receiver, and we've seen all these receivers make signings, and there hasn't been a peep out of the Panthers, right? We've let a couple receiver of our more accessory receivers walk over to other teams, and that's not really a big harm. I don't think that's what makes us a loser in this. But we've made no progress on the receiver position. Really not a lot of progress anywhere. We signed Rico Dowdle, which is just kind of like, okay, so our running back room is now Rico and our rookie Jonathan Brooks, who is still injured because he kind of like he essentially blew out his entire leg over the course of the last 2 years.
Yep.
Great player when he's healthy, but I guess we still have Chuba Hubbard. And so it's an interesting backfield because it's rather talented. It's not the worst in the league. And we've proven the ability to run the ball quite well behind an O line that's so questionable. It wasn't a need at all. Like I don't think that Rico Dowdle was a good signing because we paid him a little bit more than I would have liked to, and that money could easily be allocated to bolstering the O line or the receiving core. Looks like we're still in on Bryce, even though we were out to start last season. So if we're really in on him, we've got to get the guy some talent, man. I mean, he's a Bama product. The Bama products, they need their talent because that's what they're used to playing with is the best talent around, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Cody, who is the first loser in your list?
For player, if we start with player and then go to team, my first loser as a player is CJ Stroud. You lose your left tackle. And so he was already the second most sacked quarterback in the league last year, and then you lose your left tackle. I like the Christian Kirk signing, but I mean, is he upgrade over to Stephon Diggs? Probably not. Tank Dell is probably not going to make the start of the season. He may have to come through halfway through the season. So I think with Stroud, you're going into your third year. You've won a playoff game both first years, so you have a lot of momentum. And then they trade probably one of your best offensive players in Laramie Tunsil after you got sacked. I think it was like 56 times last year, something like that. So I think CJ Stroud's a loser there. And then as far as a team goes, I'm going with the 49ers. I mean, they cut like a third of their defense or 2/3 of their defense. Yeah, Funga, Greenlaw, Floyd. You lose Jordan Mason, you lose Debo. Like, what's this team going to look like? Are you just clearing cap space to pay Purdy? And it's like, okay, I like Purdy, but I like him with all the other things around him, not just him. So I think they lose there, and I think their Super Bowl window may have closed there, and they may have to rebuild a little bit for the next couple of years.
It's so interesting because they're deciding to do all this, so it's hard to call them a loser because they're not missing out on an opportunity for a player. Like they're deciding to get rid of these guys, but it's not like they seem like they're ready to tank. So, but that's what that's what a roster move like this looks like to most NFL teams. I would also say that someone who it's hard to call them a loser in any right because they're just defending Super Bowl champions, but the Eagles have lost a ton of talent. They're letting a lot of guys walk. Now, it does mean that they're going to have a lot of flexibility in signing who they want. And obviously, as a defending champs, I think they're not going to struggle to entice free agents. But they haven't been the most active, and they have lost people. So I think an unexpected loser has been the Eagles, as I think we expected them to let a couple guys go, but then really retain a lot of defensive talent. And so far, they have not done a ton of that.
Okay, so what Jackson said brings up a point that I want to bring up, which is when it comes to players that I think are losers, you said that the Eagles as a team is kind of a loser because of X, Y, and Z reasons. I think the quarterback of the former Super Bowl champs, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, I think he is still a loser now because it's kind of obvious. I don't even have to say it. Like, we all watched the Super Bowl. We all saw that the O-line got demolished by the defense of the Eagles. Clearly, there is work to be done. So it's not just because, he's won X, Y, and Z Super Bowls or X, Y Super Bowls that, he doesn't need any work. I mean, even Travis Kelce didn't do anything in that game. Let's be honest. You got to utilize all your weapons, and they didn't do that. So they clearly need help, both offensively, probably, more so offensively than defensively. But either way, they need to improve. So
their O-line took a hit as well.
Yeah. Lost Tooney to Chicago. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. Anybody have? Oh, I actually have one more of the losers, but it's the player loser. Another quarterback. Well, I should say, he is still a quarterback, but he was a former quarterback of Vikings. We're talking about Kirk Cousins. I think he is a loser. I think that there's a lot of frustration happening with that because, the Falcons were ready to sign that $100 million deal with him, right? But then they said, we want to, have a fresh start. Do you know how frustrating it is for someone that is like that? And I understand, sure, if you want to compare how he played last season, first first half of the season, great. Second half, imploded, totally tanked. So like that's why it's frustrating. But could you blame the team if they wanted a fresh start at this point? Cody, I'll start with you first.
No, definitely, I don't blame them. I think I didn't love them taking Penix at, what was it, 9 overall. I thought that was kind of like shocking after you paid Kirk Cousins 120 like guaranteed. So I thought that move was a little bit weird, but might work out for them in the future because, like you said, Cousins imploded and Penix took over. Looked okay in the first 3 games. Looked all right. So I think he is their future, and I think they have good pieces. I mean, whatever Pitts can give them, I think Drake London is a legit one. So yeah, I think Kirk Cousins. I mean, I think I saw somewhere he's like the 4th most paid player in NFL history. So he should just be happy that he keeps getting these deals when he's been a mediocre to like maybe average to a little bit above average quarterback for most of his career. So yeah, and he's not. I think he's going to be the backup this year because his contract isn't tradable, and I think they've passed the deadline where they can cut him. So he's a loser in the fact that he's the backup, but I mean he's going to get $45 million to back up, so that's not bad.
I know, just shut up and take it, right? Exactly. And Jackson, what do you think about what I just said?
That's why I say that Kirk Cousins, I think, is a winner. I mean, I don't know if you've just seen the tweet that was posted either today or yesterday, but his career earnings now tie Tom Brady's. And that to me is absurd, right? Now there's other considerations. The money's always going up. There's always going to be a highest paid player every year. Someone's going to break that record and all that. And if you think about the fact that Tom was willing to take a couple pay cuts to keep talent around him, he's not going to be. He was never really the highest paid player. He was typically a little bit more selfless so that he could have the talent around him. But I got Kirk as a winner, man. The best job in the United States of America is a backup quarterback, especially a backup quarterback who signed a starting quarterback deal. He's living the absolute dream. If you guys haven't watched Blue Mountain State, the first episode or two, it's the quarterback just talking about the pure bliss of being a backup quarterback. So soak it in, Kirk. I don't imagine you're going to get another contract like that. So, start your investing now. Maybe make sure you pour enough into the 401k for retirement and, enjoy the money while it rolls in.
Yep. But I think we're saying the same thing because, like, he has all these deals. He's getting away with so much, but like at the same time, all he wants to do is play star quarterback, right? So I think in that regard, he thinks probably that he is a loser. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to like what Jackson said about like he's getting all these deals and he just has to like sit there and wait till I don't know, injuries, whatever happens, right, with the star quarterback. And all he has to do is sit there and then get paid. That's the best. Like, would all of us want that? Of course we would, right? So I think in a way it's both. It's a duality when it comes to him. So my last one that I want to throw out there, and I'm going to leave this as an open-ended question, guys. What about older wide receivers that are not named Devontae Adams? So that is an open-ended question. I'm going to go to Jackson first. Do you think that is considered, or they are considered the losers of the group?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. There's a lot of young, exciting talent in the NFL right now at the receiver position. It seems like every receiver class coming like every year out of the draft is the newest, most exciting, most talented class that we've seen in however long, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that it's a tough time to be a veteran receiver. There's young, exciting guys that you can really bank your future on, and so I think that the older guys, I wouldn't call them losers yet, but I think that there's a little bit of realistic anxiety for them about okay, maybe the end of my career is approaching faster than I thought because I can't keep up with the young guys. The speed is off the charts these days. The athleticism, the playmaking ability, it's changing so quickly what these receivers are capable of. These just absolute monsters are coming out of college every year that, the guys that have been in the league for a while and have really done great work, I don't really know how long, their market lasts because there's guys that are going to go late in this draft that are still very talented receivers, I mean, um, you know, I I just think that you look at the first round guys and they're obviously freaks of nature, but go look at a mock draft for who they have landing in the 6th and 7th, and those guys can really be great too. I mean, we're not that far removed from Amon-Ra St. Brown, being a kind of a sneaky good draft pick where, he got drafted by the Lions. He didn't have a lot of receiver talent and he wasn't the first off the board by any means. And sure enough, I mean, he proved that, you don't have to be the first pick in that draft to produce a lot of talent. So yeah, the older guys, I think that they have some rightful anxiety, but not losers yet. I think that there's still a market for them.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna just before I jump to Cody because I know we all have stuff to say about this topic. I just want to say that okay, so it's called the over 30 crowd. I don't know how old you guys are, as Cody said, but it's over 30 crowd. Let's just think about it for a second. We're talking about DeAndre Hopkins is 32 or turning 32. Amari Cooper is 30. Stephon Diggs 31. Cooper Cup, as we all mentioned, 31 years old. And now apparently, did you guys know that he is released now, right? If I'm not mistaken, because of the signing for Devontae Adams, or is that, I don't know. I got it from a source, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty good. What do you guys think?
Are you talking about Cup?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cup, yeah, Cup's with the Seahawks now.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, good. I was like, I was just making sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so what do you guys think? Like that is like those some of the guys that we're talking about in that list. We used to like maybe I don't know 5-10 years ago they were like either rookies or they were like just starting out and they're stars on the field, right? But now look at what we're talking about. They're over 30, and then we don't always look at like age and think all of a sudden, oh, someone's like totally not good anymore, not capable of what their expectations and their capabilities are. But in this case, because we're talking about the NFL, it kind of pertains. So what do you think about what I just said, Cody?
So yeah, I mean, I kind of agree a little bit with what you guys said, like as far as losers for older wide receivers. Although I mean, you look at Cup, Adams, and even DeAndre Hopkins, they end up signing probably better deals than I thought they would with the teams they went to.
Mm-hmm.
And you still got guys like Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs, and I think Amari Cooper's still out there. And I think, yeah, they might not be signed, and maybe they don't make as much money as they did at one point, and they're not like the number one options, but maybe they get picked up later by a contending team and things like that. So I think it still kind of remains to be seen as far as like older wide receiver losers. Mm-hmm. But it's like the wide receiver position, like Jackson said, I mean, in this draft's probably weaker than past years, but the last like 3-4 drafts, I think there's been like 4 or 5, maybe 6 in the first round every year. And then you get a couple of, like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, like a Puka Nacua 2 years ago, who was a late round pick and popped. So it's a premium position. They get paid a premium. So when you hit that 30 mark and there's guys coming in every year, 6, 7, 8 guys coming in every year that could start, this is just kind of how it's going to be. If you're not a top end guy at 30 still, you're going to have to wait around for the market to come to you, because I can turn to the draft and get 2 of you for, a rookie deal for the next 5 years.
So we're going to talk about this in a little bit because we still have a little bit of time about the draft. But what I want to know is, in your opinion, and I'm going to go to Jackson, do you think the draft is equipped? We know it's not the strongest for the quarterback position, but is it well equipped for, something like the wide receivers? Like, do you think there's enough good talent out there that it's like easy pickings? Like whoever gets the first 3, of course, they're going to have expectations for that. Like, what do you think?
I mean, at the receiver position, kind of like I said, year after year, the receiver position is completely stacked. It's whatever they're feeding the kids these days is outrageous. Starting with Ted McMillan and then just working your way down the list of dominant receivers in that class. Yeah, if your team's got a need and that's a need for receiver, don't expect to draft a rookie and then be the number one most dominant receiver for your team. It can work, right? We see guys like Brian Thomas where, even though the team may be not all that good, like that's a guy that they can rely on, right? However, I don't know if that's really the model for success, right? I've talked about it for the quarterback position, how that's always a risk, but, banking a lot of your receiving workload on a rookie right away, not a super great idea. But when the market for these veteran receivers is kind of dwindling and you can get them for a little cheaper than maybe you could have in the past, yeah, get a vet receiver who's a little more wise-minded. I know that your receivers can sometimes be a little bit of divas, but if you get a wise-minded receiver who's willing to mentor a young guy for, on a short contract, it can really be valuable in creating that number one receiver. So, yeah, as far as your question goes, is this draft able to kind of fill the need at receiver for plenty of teams? Absolutely. I think that there's going to be guys up and down the board. There could be guys that go undrafted and get signed that could end up playing decent roles for teams, later in their career. It's just a matter of who takes them and how they're developed. I think that, last comment as far as the veteran receivers go, I've seen that D-Hop is signed with just another one of those teams that marks really the decline of their career, right? He's now signed with two of them. The Titans and the Ravens are two teams that you sign with when you're just making your way out of the league, right? You talk about Des Bryant, Steve Smith, like all these guys that signed with the Ravens, that it was kind of OBJ, like kind of the on your way out kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Cody, what do you think about what I just said? Do you think that the draft can fulfill all the needs of a wide receiver or maybe two wide receivers for a team?
I think it can at times, but I mean, with the draft, with any position, not just wide receiver, it's a crapshoot. I mean, like you can get a guy that comes in and he wows you right away, or you get a guy that you think is going to be like last year. We had 6 wide receivers taken in the first round last year, and the first one was Harrison Jr. and he had an okay year for the Cardinals, but Brian Thomas goes 20 picks later and had the better season, so you just never know. So to just kind of put all your eggs in the draft basket, which I wouldn't do, and it's like for example, like my team, the Patriots, they haven't signed a wide receiver, and that's kind of why I didn't have them in my winners. They haven't signed a veteran wide receiver, so they're probably gonna have to go get one in the draft, and they've shown a history that they don't draft receivers well. So I think it can be, it's just a crapshoot. Maybe you hit and someone, you get you get a Puka in the 5th round and he's great and he's your number one for the next decade. But then you get N'Keal Harry in the 1st round. If you're the Patriots, you take him before Deebo Samuel and AJ Brown, and he's gone within 3 seasons. So it's just a crapshoot. I wouldn't put all my eggs in the draft basket, but there has been a lot of good wide receivers that have come through college for the last decade.
So let's not just limit this question to wide receivers, because I know that after watching or listening or trying to get on my phone and figure out who drafted who, sometimes when you draft someone that's in the top 10 of all the drafts, they don't end up having, the greatest season, or they don't meet the expectations that many people think that they would. So I want to go to Cody first. Who is one of the players in previous drafts that were picked, 1, 2, 3, whatever, top 10, or let's just say, and they were supposed to be really, really good for the team and help them out and probably get them to at least off season, but they just ended up, I don't want to say, pardon my language, shitting the bed, but that's exactly what they probably did in the first season. What do you think?
For me, and he had a decent first season, but he's never really lived up to the hype that I thought he had coming out of college. But that'd be Kyle Pitts. I thought coming out of college, I thought he'd be a stud. I think he's kind of he's not exactly a tight end and he's not exactly a wide receiver. So maybe his just position doesn't work out for him. He's been just all right every single year. But when he came out of college out of Florida, he was supposed to be the next Kelsey or the next Kittle or the next big thing out there at the tight end position. And he's never really been that. Especially if you play fantasy, he's one of the top tight ends drafted every year except for the last year, and he's never lived up to that potential. So he's a guy that I would probably look at and say he could have been much better, but he just hasn't maybe found the right position.
Okay, Jackson, who disappointed you after getting drafted, let's say top 10, and you thought that they were going to be the next star of the NFL? Who is that for you?
One, I got to completely agree with the Kyle Pitts assessment, right? He was a guy that I was so high on out of college. And obviously the production was there. The talent was there. The athleticism was there. He was supposed to be what I think a lot of people agreed to be the next Vernon Davis, right? The real like hybrid of he's not just a tight end, like he is very close to a receiver. He's got the speed and the agility of a receiver, but the strength to block downfield like a tight end. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who still is a starter in the NFL, so it's not like, I don't think the term like shit the bed really addresses it, but he has very underlived his expectations. We were expecting him to be the like only undebatable tight end one. Maybe not his rookie year, maybe not his second year, but at least by now, and he's not that. And everyone will fall for it come fantasy draft time. He'll go in the top 5 somehow.
Right.
There's always some reason why this, like, he's got a new young quarterback who wants to throw him the ball, so we should be high on him again. Like, I don't buy into it. It's not going to pan out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you guys had said, the draft is risky. Like you're putting a lot of faith in one young person whose career trajectory depends a lot on what you put around them, right? And I think that plenty of the draft busts have also been just underserved, right? Someone who I think that had high expectations coming out, especially from like the top talking heads in the league, was Josh Rosen. If you can even recall the name these days,
Yes.
right?
Rosen, yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you got videos of like Bayless and Colin Cowherd and people like that are like, oh, I can't remember everyone who was in his class, but they'd be talking about a quarterback that has panned out now, and be like, oh, I mean, yeah, that guy's good, but he's no Josh Rosen. Like Josh Rosen is your clear cut guy here. Like that's who you have to take with this pick, and this is how you build a franchise. Like Rosen's a guy you can build a franchise around, and obviously, like is he in the league now? Does he play for somebody? I
don't think so.
It's not a question I have the answer to.
Yeah, like maybe practice squad at best, but yeah, I don't think he's actually on a roster anymore. But yeah, I think he was in the Josh Allen, Mayfield, like Lamar Jackson draft. I think that was him.
It was Lamar. I didn't want to assume it was Lamar, but it was Lamar that they were saying, because obviously Lamar did fall down that draft. And they were like, yeah, Lamar Jackson's great, dynamic runner, all that, but he's no Josh Rosen. And you listen to that now. And I mean, we're people who like having our sports takes, right? Like I've probably said things over the past couple of weeks that if you clipped them and played them 2 years from now, I would lose all credibility as a sports opinion, just because that's the greatest thing. That's why we all love sports, is it's completely unpredictable. You never know what'll happen next.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That made me laugh so hard, Jackson, because that actually is very true. I haven't even thought about that for a second, but let me throw a name to you. Somebody from the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. Okay, guys, maybe without the injuries, he might not be that bad. Maybe he didn't shit the bed, but maybe according to the GM's eyes, where they were like, a lot of teams were eyeing him. I believe he was 5th or 6th, I believe, in that draft. And a lot of teams were eyeing him. And the Miami Dolphins, like everybody, including myself, and I'm a Patriots fan, so like I shouldn't be like liking this at this point. I was excited to see Tua perform. But man, he is just like so fragile, and maybe it's like the O-line. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, do you think he's considered someone that we had a lot of expectations for, and without all the injuries, he's still okay? He's still not like an elite quarterback. What do you guys think? I'm going to go to Cody first.
Okay. I think when it comes to Tua, yeah, the injuries are definitely a thing, but I think now this has changed, but it's like Alabama, Ohio State, you have to be wary about taking these quarterbacks because they play on basically like all-star teams in college. Like, I mean, you look at the teams that Tua played on, how many of those players, defense and offense, are in the NFL right now. Like, he played with a lot of great players, and he has Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, so he's got good players in Miami as well. But for me, I think he's just small. He's got kind of a small arm, but I think you just got to be wary about taking these top end quarterbacks from these teams, because they're going to walk into the NFL to a team that's in the top 10 that maybe doesn't even have the same talent that their college team just had, like their receivers. So I think the jury's still out, but I think one more concussion for him. I thought he should have considered retiring last year, but I think one more concussion for him and it should be it. And yeah, the Dolphins are another team I think that are just going in the wrong direction as well.
Yeah, for sure. Jackson, what do you think about what I said about Tua?
I was a Tua detractor. When he got drafted, I was not for him. I'm no Dolphins fan, so I don't have
Mhm,
any skin in the game. But I'm not high. I wasn't high on Tua, so his performance really has outdone what I expected. So therefore, like I can't really say that I would think that he definitely doesn't shit the bed with the
mhm,
performances, the some of the statistical accomplishments that he has. Um, but yeah, I think that there were other talking heads that had very high expectations for him, and he hasn't lived up
mhm.
to that. It's always hard to factor in injuries when you're assessing someone like that.
Yeah.
As Stephen A. Smith and many others are quoted for saying, the best ability is availability, right? It is part of the consideration for you as a player. Now, I don't think that he ever had the best protection in the world,
Mm,
and that leads to quarterbacks getting concussions, right? I mean, he's gotten smoked a couple times. He also brings it upon himself. He's had some rushes where he does not go down as quickly or fall back as he's supposed to. And that's all part of your assessment as a quarterback, right? You can't just say that injury is not a part of who they are.
mhm,
It's a reason that some people were low on Kirk Cousins, even though he got that big old contract, is he was just coming off an Achilles injury, and that's very limiting for your
mm,
mobility in the pocket. And we kind of saw that he was very limited in his mobility in the pocket, right?
mhm,
So yeah, I don't know that he's necessarily been any sort of bust or anything close to it. But I don't think that he's quite the guy that they can build a very successful future around. I think that he can give you a good regular season and
mhm,
and really impress, but I don't know that they're not going to be contenders with Tua.
mhm.
I think that they'll be a good team, but not quite contentious.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, that's the whole point of the hype. Do you guys remember all the trailers, all the videos? Everything was like centered around Tua for some reason. Obviously, there were others that were like number one, two, three, four, and so on and so forth. But I just think that they made him seem like this is gonna be the savior for the Dolphins. And you might be right, Jackson. Maybe they do have an incredible season, but when it comes to the off season, when it comes to other things, like obviously we can't really factor that in, or we're not going to see that happen, at least in that division. What do you think, Cody? Because that's in our division,
Yeah.
right? Like, what do you think?
No, yeah, I think I don't really have much hope for the Dolphins now. I'm a little biased because I kind of hope they don't do well, but yeah. So, but I don't really see a lot of hope. Yeah. With Tua, I feel like he's just one of those quarterbacks he's just maybe a little above average. He's like a Dak Prescott, or he's like a maybe a Brock Purdy. Like he's a guy that can lead your team to
Mhm,
wins, but I don't think he's leading you to an AFC Championship game. Definitely not a Super Bowl. So
mhm,
he's just a good, solid starting quarterback when he's healthy. But there's nothing more than that. I'm with Jackson. I wouldn't call him a bust exactly because like he's played well in games and he's made it to that second contract. I think he just got paid last year pretty good. So like he's had good moments, but for me, I just don't. I think their team has a ceiling. Like the best I think their team can do is probably like wild card round. That's probably
yeah,
like their
yeah, for
ceiling.
sure. But that's the thing, right? Is that maybe he's getting these big deals because they're like, oh, maybe next year, just next year, he's going to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's obviously some hope for him. If even regardless of these injuries, they got to work on their own line. That's what I have to say. And then he won't be a bust. He might be, better than average. I don't know yet because I haven't seen him mostly
Right.
in the off season much. So guys, we're at the end of our show, but I'm gonna preview a little bit about the next episode. We kind of talked about this and we like stumbled upon it a little bit in this topic. The 2025 NFL draft, which is happening April 24th to April 26th. And then it's perfect because the next day is our show. So we can talk about the winners and losers of that draft, as per se. So we're going to preview that. We're going to give you our favorite draft picks. And then we're also going to, oh, by the way, it's in Lambeau Field, which is pretty cool. If you guys didn't know that, so I know, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
cool. Yeah.
that's what's gonna happen. Also, we have some merch from our show, and it's only the third episode. That's pretty cool. So we have, and I'll bring it up next time. I was talking to Cody before the show, before Jackson logged in, and I was saying that I will show some pictures and some websites of players and also our merch so then people can see where to get it and how it looks. So it's gonna be a T-shirt. It's about $19.99, and it's at the Sports Fluent website. So if anybody, I know I'll bring it up next time, but if you guys want to go and pick one up, it's pretty cool. I think, was it Cody or Jack? No, Cody. I think you were saying about the Panthers colors, or was that Jackson? I forgot.
Oh, yeah, that was me. I'm a
That
Panthers
was you.
fan, so
yeah,
obviously with a very AI edited version of a Panthers jersey, it was nice to see my Panthers represented on something other than the receiving end of a whooping by a contentious team.
Fair enough. I think he's a little bit salty still, Cody. What do you think?
A little bit, yeah. So, hey, he's got a reason to, but hey, yeah, maybe this year will be better for you. But hey, you got him on the shirt, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, as we're closing out, I just got one last thing to say, and that is that my Tar Heels are in the NCAA tournament, maybe undeservingly. I'll give them a watch. You guys can leave all your hateful comments next week when we're already out of it.
They can't type fast enough. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I like the Tar Heels too, so I won't be saying anything mean. So no, I'll be with rooting for them in the first four and I'm hopefully in the first round as well. So yeah,
I gotta get into it, guys. I am not an NCAA person, so I need to get into it because I know you guys are gonna be talking. So I kind of want to get a head start. So I guess the Tar Heels. So we're gonna root for them. I guess so. I guess that would be a team that I'll
take the opportunity to pick someone who's better.
Yeah, root for them in the first week, maybe, because that's probably that'll be the end of their season. Just the first week. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So thank you to my co-hosts Cody and Jackson for joining me on this week's episode of From the Sidelines. We are live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, usually on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X for Sports Fluent. And we will see you guys next week. And hopefully CJ, maybe Tony can join us for next week's episode. Bye, guys. See you.
See ya.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
No, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.